off out of my long run. It's absolutely pouring it down. I'm afraid I kind of lack courage in these sorts of days. I've been looking outside for about half an hour and like, oh, I really should go. Anyway, let's see how we get on. 20k hopefully. Well, it's as wet as an otter's pocket out here, but not entirely unpleasant. I mean, it's not cold, but yeah, a lot of standing water. So I'm just very glad it wasn't like this last weekend when we were on the West Highland Way. That would have been a bit miserable. Yeah. But no, it's good to be out. Legs feeling alright. A lot less calf tightness than I've had recently. So that's great. Thanks to Lindsay, my miracle working sports massage therapist, I think. But, yeah. And I forgot to start my watch. Yeah, nice to be out. And this is recovery week, so hence the slightly shorter distance in the long run. 10k in, bang on the hour. So exactly the sort of pace I'm aiming for. An average of 6-minute kilometres. Oh damn. Some of this floods. Phenomenal. Yeah, and being able to keep the heart rate, well, pretty much always below 140. It's peaked up just slightly more for less than a minute. The rain is relentless, but then so am I. Legs are feeling pretty good. It's just what you want in recovery week. So just when I thought everything was going according to plan, coming down into the glen in Dunfermline, slipped. There's sandstone steps down, and I was like, oh, better be careful in these, and yeah, slipped. So, I'm not too bad, didn't really bash my legs or anything, just my finger. I decided, as it was a bit of a shorter run today, that I would run with a hip pack instead of my vest. And usually in my vest pack I keep a first aid kit, so I wish I'd brought it today. I could have patched myself up a bit, but I'm alright. Yeah, the burn's very big in the park here, but no, in general I'm going well. I'm just under 15k, an hour and 28, so let's see, yeah, so it'll be just under my 6-minute average. Aye, burn's pretty big, well, compared to what it normally is. I have seen it worse, with the path completely flooded in the winter. But yeah, just 5k, 6k to go. And that's 11 o'clock. So I made it back and I'm now all dried off, but that was a wet run. Probably the wettest run I've ever had. So I did 21k in 2 hours, 2 minutes, and felt pretty good, apart from sliding about the place and slightly hurting my left hand. Yeah, so it was probably one of the best long runs I've had for quite a little while, in terms of a combination of pace control and actually not going super slow, so it was still a bit of a challenge, but able to keep my heart rate kind of where I was targeting. So maybe I'll go through some of those numbers just now. So yeah, we can see overall time, overall pace 5:45, relative effort 58. I've certainly had easier paced half marathon distances before that came out at a lower relative effort score and things like that. But looking at heart rate, I was in zone 2 97% of the time, and then a little bit in zone 1, very little time, 1:30 overall in zone 3. So yeah, let's compare that to a few other previous half marathons. So I actually find Garmin a little bit easier than Strava for looking at a range of runs. Just the filtering I feel is a lot better. So we can see today's run, 21.2, a reasonable amount of ascent in there, average heart rate 129, max at 145. So the last run I did, I did manage to take it a bit easier back in May, and that would have been my last recovery week. We can see here that, yeah, max heart rate was a bit lower, average heart rate a bit lower, but quite considerably slower. And then back in March, again, a half, max heart rate a bit higher than today's run, although the average heart rate was lower, but again, quite a bit slower. And then, looking back to, previously, so I have been quicker in the past. If we look at here, I was 5:39 a kilometre, but it was, smaller amount of ascent, average heart rate a bit higher, max heart rate quite considerably higher than today's run. And that would have been, my PB in the half marathon there. And I certainly feel I could have gone a lot faster today, like quite a bit faster. I could really sort of push myself hard, but I wasn't going for a time. I was very much trying to stay in that heart rate zone. So, I think there's clear evidence of progression and improved fitness. And, being able to stay in that zone 2 a lot better. I'm starting to question, though, whether my zone 2 settings are correct. So at the minute I've got it set at 140, and my watch, when I first set it at 140, my watch didn't calculate a lactate threshold. That was in a different watch. Now that it does, and from what I hear, I believe it's relatively accurate as long as you're doing the workouts. Taking the lactate threshold on my watch and then putting that into a calculator, it would say that my upper level of zone 2 should be, instead of 140, should be 136. So yeah, I might adjust that down a little bit and just sort out my zones a little bit. So, but anyway, it was a good run, and for what is recovery week, pretty pleased with that, and I think it's been a good week overall.